Have you ever wondered why some people treat the elderly with so little respect? Have you ever felt unheard, dismissed, or even disregarded by people around you, family, friends, or even strangers? Have you ever questioned whether their lack of respect was a reflection of your worth or simply their own shortcomings? Has this ever affected your relationships, leaving you feeling frustrated, unappreciated, or even lonely? If so, you are not alone. Many people, as they grow older, face this challenge. But what if I told you that the secret to handling disrespect isn't about forcing people to change, but about how you respond? In this story, we will uncover 6 timeless principles that will empower you to carry yourself with strength and dignity, no matter how others treat you. So, if you're ready to handle disrespect with wisdom and grace, join me on this journey. Like and subscribe to the power of ancient, timeless wisdom, because your dignity is worth protecting. 1. Teach people how to treat you. Have you ever felt like people constantly take advantage of you? Have you ever wondered why some individuals seem to be respected while others are ignored or mistreated? What if I told you that people treat you based on what you allow? People want boundaries, even if they don't realize it. They want to know what is acceptable and what isn't. But if you never teach them, they will treat you however they want, sometimes with kindness, other times with disrespect. Here's the truth. You show people how to treat you by what you tolerate, what you correct, and what you walk away from. This principle has helped countless people set clear expectations in their relationships. It has helped them move from feeling powerless to feeling in control. Respect is not something you beg for. It's something you command by the way you carry yourself and respond to mistreatment. This mindset is important because it determines your relationships, your peace, and even your self-worth. If you don't set clear expectations, people will walk over you, not necessarily because they are bad, but because you never showed them otherwise. Knowing this is one thing, but practicing it is what truly changes your life. So what should you do when people treat you poorly? When they talk down to you, ignore your feelings, or cross your boundaries? Instead of silently accepting it, speak up. Instead of hoping they will change, let them know what you will and will not tolerate. Instead of staying where you are not respected, walk away if necessary. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Helen who worked as a caregiver. She was kind, always willing to help, but the family she worked for began to take her for granted. They would call her at all hours, give her more work than she could handle, and never acknowledge her efforts. At first, Helen didn't say anything because she didn't want to seem ungrateful. But over time, she felt exhausted, unappreciated, and even resentful. One day, she decided to change things. She went to the family and calmly said, "I love what I do, but I need to set some boundaries. I will be available during work hours, but outside of that, I need my personal time. If these expectations aren't met, I may need to find another position." At first, they were surprised, but soon, they began to respect her time and effort. They apologized and adjusted how they treated her. They now saw her as a professional, not just someone they could use whenever they pleased. The positive side of this story? Helen regained her dignity and peace. She taught them how to treat her with respect, and in return, her work environment improved. The negative side? If Helen had stayed silent, she would have continued feeling overworked and unappreciated. She would have burned out, possibly quit out of frustration, or grown bitter. This principle is not about controlling others. It's about developing a mindset that sets the standard for how you expect to be treated. When people act the wrong way, correcting them with firmness and respect helps them understand your value. It also helps you appreciate yourself because you no longer allow mistreatment. The next time someone disrespects you, ask yourself, am I teaching them that this is acceptable? Because sometimes, the way people treat you is simply a reflection of what you allow. If this wisdom has helped you, subscribe and stay tuned for the next principle. There is still more to learn about building self-respect and commanding the respect of others. 2. Stop explaining. Have you ever felt the need to explain yourself to people who don't even care to understand you? Maybe someone misunderstood your actions, judged your decisions, or questioned your worth, and you felt obligated to justify yourself. But let me ask you this. Why do you feel the need to explain yourself to those who have already made up their minds? People want to feel in control. They want to dictate how others should live, what choices they should make, and how they should respond. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for being yourself. The moment you stop explaining, you reclaim your power. This principle has helped so many people break free from unnecessary arguments, guilt, and the exhaustion of trying to prove themselves. Some people will never respect you, no matter how well you explain your intentions. Some will twist your words and use them against you. So, why waste your breath? This mindset is important because it shifts your focus from seeking approval to living in self-assurance. When you stop explaining, you learn to stand firm in your decisions without feeling the need to convince others. Knowing this is one thing, but doing it is what gives you real strength. So what should you do when someone questions you unfairly? When they demand explanations that you know won't change their opinions? Instead of explaining, respond with action. Instead of justifying yourself, let your results speak. Instead of arguing, stay rooted in your truth. Let me share a story. There was an elderly woman named Margaret who lived alone in a small village. She was quiet, independent, and went about her life peacefully. But the villagers often gossiped about her. Why doesn't she attend every social gathering? They would ask. Why doesn't she remarry? Some even whispered that she must be hiding something. One day, a young girl in the village asked Margaret, "Why don't you explain to people why you live the way you do?" Margaret smiled and replied, "If a bird spends all its time explaining why it flies instead of flying, will it ever reach where it's meant to go?" The positive side of this story? Margaret lived in peace, not weighed down by the need to justify herself. She focused on her life and happiness instead of explaining herself to those who never truly cared. The negative side? If Margaret had spent her days explaining herself to everyone, she would have wasted her energy on people who weren't genuinely interested in understanding her. She would have been drained, distracted, and still misunderstood. This principle is not about being arrogant or dismissive. It's about having the right mindset, one that frees you from the endless cycle of trying to prove yourself. When people act the wrong way, stop explaining. Instead, live in a way that makes explanations unnecessary. Those who truly respect you will understand without needing a word. The next time someone demands an explanation from you, pause and ask yourself, do they really want to understand, or do they just want control? Because sometimes the strongest answer is simply moving forward without a word. If this wisdom resonates with you, subscribe and stay tuned for the next principle. There's more to learn on the path to self-respect and inner peace. 3. Create distance. Have you ever felt drained after being around certain people? Have you ever wondered why some individuals continuously disrespect you, no matter how kind or patient you are? What if I told you that you don't have to stay in spaces where you are not valued? People want connection, love, and acceptance. But sometimes the people around you don't appreciate your presence. They take you for granted, disrespect you, or even use you. And yet you stay, hoping they will change. But here's the truth. You have the power to step back, to walk away, and to create distance from those who do not honor you. This principle has helped many people protect their peace. Distance is not about cutting people off in anger. It's about prioritizing your well-being. When you create space from those who mistreat you, you teach them how to respect you. If someone values you, they will notice your absence and reflect on their actions. If they don't, their response will show you that they never truly valued you in the first place. This mindset is important because it helps you build self-respect. When you know that you don't have to tolerate constant disrespect, you begin to choose peace over unnecessary conflict. Knowing this is one thing, but acting on it is where real transformation happens. So what should you do when someone repeatedly disrespects you? When they drain your energy and make you feel small? Instead of staying in a toxic environment, step back. Instead of forcing them to change, create space and let them feel your absence. Instead of waiting for them to appreciate you, remove yourself and appreciate yourself first. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Thomas who had a lifelong friend, James. They had been close since childhood, but as they grew older, James began to belittle Thomas, mock his achievements, and ignore his feelings. Thomas always tried to explain how he felt, but James would laugh it off. One day, Thomas made a decision. He stopped trying to make James understand. He stopped explaining. And most importantly, he stopped making himself available to be disrespected. He didn't fight. He didn't argue. He simply created distance. At first, James didn't notice. But over time, he realized that Thomas was no longer as reachable as before. He began to miss his presence. One day, he approached Thomas and asked, "Why don't we talk like we used to?" Thomas simply smiled and said, "I go where I am valued." The positive side of this story? Thomas found peace and self-respect. He stopped wasting his energy on someone who didn't appreciate him. In the end, James realized what he had lost and had to decide whether he truly valued the friendship. The negative side? If Thomas had stayed, he would have continued feeling small, ignored, and unappreciated. He would have spent his time and emotions on someone who didn't respect him, draining his energy and self-worth. This principle is not about punishing others. It's about creating a mindset that values your peace over pleasing others. When people act the wrong way, distance helps them see your worth more clearly. It helps you appreciate yourself and demand the respect you deserve. The next time someone mistreats you, ask yourself, why am I staying in a place where I am not valued? Because sometimes the best way to teach people your worth is by removing yourself. If you found this wisdom valuable, subscribe and stay tuned for the next principle. There's more to learn about protecting your dignity and peace. 4. Hold your head high. Have you ever noticed how some people try to make you feel small, as if your presence is insignificant? Have you ever wondered why some individuals go out of their way to belittle others? What if I told you that the way you carry yourself can change the way people treat you? People want to feel important. They want to feel like they have control over others, like their opinions determine someone else's worth. But here's the truth. No one can take away your value unless you let them. The way you see yourself determines how others see you. If you carry yourself with confidence, even in the face of disrespect, you send a silent message that you are not to be diminished. This principle has helped many people walk with dignity, even when surrounded by negativity. Holding your head high is not about arrogance. It's about knowing your worth. When you stand tall, you tell the world that you respect yourself, and those who have the wisdom to see it will respect you too. This mindset is important because it keeps you from shrinking to fit the expectations of others. Too often, people lower themselves in the hopes of being accepted, but in doing so, they lose sight of their own value. Knowing this is one thing, but living it is where the real strength comes in. So what should you do when people try to put you down? When they dismiss your words, mock your choices, or treat you as if you are beneath them? Instead of reacting with anger, stand tall. Instead of trying to prove your worth, show them through your confidence. Instead of letting their words weigh you down, walk forward with your head high. Let me tell you a story. There was an elderly woman named Esther who worked at a local market selling handmade crafts. She was talented, but some younger merchants laughed at her, saying her ways were outdated and that no one cared for her work anymore. Some even made fun of her appearance and the way she dressed. One day, a young girl asked her, "Why don't you ever get upset when people make fun of you?" Esther smiled and said, "A lion does not lower its head just because the hyenas are laughing." Despite the criticism, Esther continued working with grace and confidence. Over time, more and more people began to admire her strength. Her crafts became popular, not just for their quality, but because people respected the way she carried herself, with dignity and unshakable confidence. The positive side of this story? Esther did not let others define her worth. She stayed true to herself and, in the end, earned the respect of many. The negative side? If Esther had let their words affect her, she might have quit, doubted herself, or tried to change to fit their expectations. She would have lost her identity in the process. This principle is not about pretending to be better than others. It's about developing a mindset that keeps you strong no matter how people treat you. When people act the wrong way, Holding your head high reminds them that their words do not define you. It helps you appreciate your own worth, regardless of their opinions. The next time someone tries to make you feel small, ask yourself, why should I shrink for those who do not even value me? Because sometimes the best response is to simply keep walking, tall, strong, and unapologetically yourself. If this wisdom has helped you, subscribe and stay tuned for the next principle. There is still more to learn about carrying yourself with strength and grace. 5. Use silence. Have you ever been in a situation where someone disrespected you and you felt the urge to respond immediately? Maybe they insulted you, dismissed your words, or acted as if you didn't matter. Your first instinct may have been to argue, explain yourself, or even retaliate. But what if I told you that silence can be your greatest weapon? Think about it. Why do people try to provoke others? What do they really want? Attention, a reaction, a sign that they have control over your emotions. And when they don't get it, they are left unsettled, wondering why their words or actions didn't have the effect they expected. This principle has helped countless people handle disrespect without losing their peace. Imagine walking away from a situation knowing you didn't waste your energy on someone who didn't deserve it. Imagine maintaining your dignity while others lose theirs. That is the power of silence. This mindset is important because it protects your emotional well-being. When you react to every insult or negative remark, you give others power over your emotions. But when you choose silence, you take that power back. It's not about being weak. It's about being wise. Knowing this is one thing, but applying it is what truly changes lives. So what should you do when someone disrespects you? Instead of arguing, pause. Instead of defending yourself, observe. Instead of proving your worth, walk away knowing it. Silence is not just the absence of words, it is a statement in itself. It tells people that their negativity has no hold over you. Let me share a story with you. There was an old woman named Ruth who worked as a school caretaker. She was humble and kind, but the younger staff often looked down on her. They would gossip about her, laugh behind her back, and sometimes even make rude comments to her face. But Ruth never reacted. She carried on with her work, smiling as if she never heard them. One day, a new teacher saw how Ruth was treated and asked, "Why don't you ever respond to them?" Ruth smiled and said, "If a dog barks at you while you walk down the road, do you stop to bark back?" The positive side of this story? Ruth kept her peace and self-respect. And over time, some of the staff began to feel guilty for how they treated her. They realized that their words had no effect on her, and eventually stopped. The negative side? If Ruth had reacted angrily, she might have been seen as aggressive, giving people more reason to justify their disrespect. She would have lost her peace, and maybe even her job. This principle is not about being passive or playing games. It's about building a mindset that works, one that protects your energy and dignity. When people act the wrong way, silence helps you stay above their negativity. It allows you to appreciate your own self-worth without needing external validation. The next time someone tries to provoke you, pause and ask yourself, is my energy worth this? Because sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. If you found this lesson valuable, subscribe and stay tuned for the next principle. There's more wisdom ahead to help you handle disrespect with grace and strength. 6. Respect yourself. Have you ever noticed that the way you treat yourself often sets the tone for how others treat you? Have you ever wondered why some people seem to command respect effortlessly, while others struggle to be taken seriously? What if I told you that self-respect is the foundation of how the world sees you? People want to be valued. They want to be acknowledged, appreciated, and treated with dignity. But here's the truth. If you do not respect yourself, others will struggle to respect you too. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak about yourself, and the way you allow others to treat you all communicate your level of self-respect. This principle has helped countless people step into their power. It has helped them stop settling for less than they deserve, walk away from toxic situations, and attract better relationships into their lives. Respecting yourself means recognizing your worth and refusing to lower your standards just to fit in or be accepted. This mindset is important because it affects every area of your life. your relationships, your career, your confidence, and even your inner peace. If you don't respect yourself, you will tolerate things that drain your energy and lower your self-worth. Knowing this is one thing, but living it is what transforms your life. So what should you do when you find yourself in situations where you feel disrespected, when people overlook your value or take advantage of your kindness? Instead of blaming them, ask yourself, have I been showing them how to treat me? Instead of waiting for others to recognize your worth, start by recognizing it yourself. Instead of seeking validation, be the first to validate yourself. Let me tell you a story. There was an elderly man named Mr. Daniel who worked as a tailor in a small town. He was skilled, but because he was humble, some people thought they could bargain with him unfairly or delay payments. Some even acted as if they were doing him a favor by giving him work. One day, a younger tailor moved into town, charging higher prices and setting firm rules for his business. People respected him immediately, even though he was less experienced than Mr. Daniel. Seeing this, Mr. Daniel realized that the difference was not just skill, it was self-respect. The next time a customer tried to underpay him, he smiled and said, "My work is valuable, and I will only accept what I am worth." Some people walked away, but others began to respect him more. They realized that if he respected his own work, then they should too. The positive side of this story, Mr. Daniel reclaimed his dignity and self-worth. He started attracting customers who valued him, and his confidence grew. The negative side? If he had continued allowing others to take advantage of him, he would have spent his life feeling unappreciated, undervalued, and frustrated. This principle is not about being arrogant or demanding. It's about developing a mindset that sets the standard for how you expect to be treated. When people act the wrong way, respecting yourself helps you maintain your dignity. It also helps you appreciate yourself, knowing that your value does not decrease just because someone else fails to see it. The next time you feel disrespected, ask yourself, am I showing others that I respect myself? Because sometimes, the most powerful way to demand respect is simply to carry yourself with the dignity of someone who already has it. If this wisdom has helped you, subscribe and stay tuned. The journey to handling disrespect with wisdom is not just about how others treat you, it's about how you see yourself. Conclusion and final thoughts. Throughout this journey, we have explored 6 powerful ways to handle people who don't respect you. You've learned that silence can be more powerful than words. You don't owe anyone explanations for your choices. Creating distance can teach people your worth. Holding your head high commands silent respect. Teaching people how to treat you sets clear expectations. Respecting yourself first is the key to receiving respect from others. These are not just strategies, they are timeless principles that have helped countless people break free from the cycle of frustration, resentment, and self-doubt. But knowing these things is not enough. Living them is what makes the difference. People will always test your boundaries. Some will challenge your confidence. Others will see how much they can get away with. But now, you know better. And when you know better, you must do better. So what should you do moving forward? When people act the wrong way, remember that your response is your power. When someone disrespects you, pause and ask yourself, how will I handle this with wisdom? When you feel unappreciated, choose to appreciate yourself first. This is not about playing games with people. It's about building a mindset that protects your peace and demands respect without force. The world may not always be kind, but you have the ability to stand strong, walk with dignity, and never settle for less than you deserve. If you've gained value from this, subscribe and stay connected. Your journey to strength, confidence, and self-respect is just beginning. Keep walking forward with your head high because you are worth it.